You need to be more like a dog. We don't need a bunch of cats in here looking in the mirror. Do I look good? I got my extra bands on. I got my other shoes on. We need more dogs.
Both quarterbacks on the page.
I had to.
Yeah.
I had to. If they had anyone but Kenny Pickett last year, this team was pretty darn good. Every pass that Kenny Pickett sailed, you could see the wide receivers die a little bit inside.
Who was Jefferson, wide receiver 2?
Van Jefferson.
Oh, okay. I was just thinking, I'm like, who is that?
And Russell Wilson at wide receiver 3.
Yeah. No, so, I mean, looking at this team, immediately, I love what they did in their draft. Getting Russell Wilson in the 84th pick, great steal. Then his brother Patrick, right after that at 98, incredible value. No, but in all seriousness, I love Fautanu. He's one of my favorite guys in the draft. He just seems like a Pittsburgh Steeler. And then Zach Frazier's kind of the same way, just a Midwest guy. So I mean, looking at this, I love Troy Fautanu. I love Zach Frazier. Really like Peyton Wilson a lot too. Looking at the draft, we already kind of talked about that, but I mean, you look at this defense, and this defensive line is just incredible. If healthy, TJ Watt's probably the best player in the league, not named Patrick Mahomes.
Any Steelers fan who hears this will probably hate me for saying this. I think that TJ Watt gets a little overrated because he plays on such a monster D line. Like, he gets a lot of great opportunities. He's very good. He's a very good football player.
But he also
He's very good anywhere. But I do think that the scheme and the talent around him aids him quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't know if I just hear irrational Steelers fans laugh because I'm around with quite a few of them. But the difference of him being on the field versus off the field is quite remarkable as well when it comes to wins and losses for one player. They win.
That's true.
They win when he's on the field, and they lose when he's off the field. And there's probably other reasons for that, but the winning percentage is drastically different.
Right.
Numbers wise and production wise, I mean, I think he does benefit, but I also think he has whatever it is to elevate everyone around him on top of just being a freak.
Yeah, no, that's a very fair point, I think. And man, this D line is just so much fun to watch. They're so good. Getting into the O line a little bit, let's just start there. I like Fautanu, but I think he's a guard, which is tough. Now, granted,
what do you think about Broderick Jones?
I think Broderick Jones is a monster man. He's a monster man doing the monster mash. He is insane.
How big is he? 6'8"?
The size of a tub. He's the size of a tub. But I think that you're going to see a nice jump from him this year. I just think he's such an athletic football player, such a freak athlete, and he was still growing into the position. But I think that there was some growth from him throughout the year last year, and you can feel good about him taking that step. I think Dan Moore's a solid swing. Honestly, he had a rough year last year, but he's an experienced football player in this league. You can do worse than him as a swing tackle. And Fautanu, one of the things that makes me nervous about him is, maybe it's silly, but he didn't protect the blind side for his quarterback because his quarterback was a lefty in college. Roger Rosengarten was actually moved from left tackle to right tackle when they got Michael Penix because they wanted Rosengarten protecting his blind side. And Fautanu's a freak athlete as well. He very well might figure it out and be fine there. Just guys who are new to the position at left tackle tend to make me nervous, and that's what Fautanu is. He was a D lineman when he got to Washington.
I like this offensive line, and it's one of those things. You look at the Steelers team, and it's just they still have the coach, and whatever he does, the players love him, and then he goes out to the media and says the most outlandish things you've ever heard, but in the greatest of ways. Give me red paint and I'll paint that barn red. One of my favorite quotes of all time. I just love Mike Tomlin so much. And I know Steelers fans are getting upset being perfectly average, but you would be bottom of the barrel without him. Mm-hmm. So it's maybe look to blame someone else. Yeah. Because I don't think Mike Tomlin has been banging the table for Kenny Pickett lately. or
I don't know.
or Mason Rudolph.
Was that his draft pick? Like I just never understood that draft pick. But on the I gotta say, I see eye to eye with the way the Steelers scout interior line because I love what they've done on the interior. I might have some questions with Fautanu. I love this interior line.
Yeah.
Zach Frazier was one of my favorite players. Mason McCormick, I was lower on than a lot of people, but where they picked him, I thought was perfect value.
Yeah.
And
I think the Steelers' biggest flaw has been they held on to Ben for way too long and then never have been able to transition away from him. But everywhere else on the field, fantastic.
I actually have this thought with this team that Arthur Smith, you look at this O-line, you see outstanding zone blocker, good zone blocker, good zone blocker. Broderick Jones, a guy who should be a good zone blocker when his technique gets up there. Fautanu should be a good zone blocker. And then you look at big tight end, Darnell Washington, big inline tight end, Pat Fryermuth, big move tight end who can be a fullback, Connor Hayward. You look at the running back room, Najee Harris, big, powerful back, might be slow, but he's going to break some tackles. Jalen Warren, Jitterbug, Scordero Patterson gets all the touchdowns.
Whatever you want him to do, he'll do it.
George Pickens, awesome X receiver. Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin's good with football in his hands, I guess.
But the Deontay Johnson move. The Deontay Johnson move was weird. But if there's one thing
I'm getting to, Arthur Smith is going to run a powerful zone running offense. Get Justin Fields in there. This team is going to be hell on the ground. I don't know if they'll be able to pass the ball for their lives, but they're going to be hell on the ground.
Yeah, I'll talk about the Justin Fields thing here in a minute when we get to their schedule. One of the biggest blunders I think they made this offseason was I don't know if they always wanted Justin Fields or nobody was going to get him, so they said like fuck it, we'll go get him. I don't know what that was to get Russell Wilson the way they did for next to nothing, and you're paying him 63 cents. I thought that was an incredible move. And then to follow it up by trading for Justin Fields, I thought was a terrible move. I would have loved either one of those moves by themselves, but I feel like you're hindering your team by bringing both in.
There might be a case for that, and there might be a case for they always wanted Justin Fields, but they knew they could get him cheaper, and they were just waiting out the Bears, and Russell Wilson was too good an opportunity to pass up.
That's what I'm saying. Like, both deals were incredible, and both of them by themselves were incredible. So it's like, I don't blame them for doing both deals, but you have them both for basically 1 year, and I think we're going to look up at the end of the season and they're not going to have either. Like,
it's possible. I mean, I think if they want Justin Fields, I think they'll be able to keep him. If he performs well, that's where it gets iffy. But if he performs mediocre, I think they'll work something out. Like he's close with Tomlin. They have a good relationship.
I could see this being a Justin Fields led team where Justin Fields doesn't throw more than 20 times all season, and their offense is just electric,
dude. And all 20 times will just be like go routes to George Pickens where he's dunking on people, and that's all it will be. And George Pickens is just going to be like putting people in the dirt on these running plays too, and that they're going to run like 13 personnel all season with just George Pickens out wide alone and 3 tight ends at a time, or maybe 23 personnel with 2 running backs, 3 tight ends
leaking out on them. Like,
just they're going to be insane. Arthur Smith is going to get like wild with this roster. That's all I can think of when I look at the talent on this roster. I'm just like, these guys are setting this up to do some Frankenstein shit.
But just in general, the Steelers figure out the wide receiver position better than it seems like anybody in the league. So if they don't want Deontay Johnson anymore, and you're the team giving up a quality corner and a 3rd-round pick, maybe you should be the one looking in the mirror, not being like, holy shit, we just got Deontay Johnson. Or
the other position that's underrated for the Steelers?
Linebacker, running back.
No, corner. They never invest in corner. They just end up with really good corners. They just have these awesome
They're just always good.
That no one seemed to want.
The whole team just seems to perform well. Are you still want to talk more, or do you want to get into
let me get into a few more of these positions. Let me look at the D-line. I mean, this thing is just Larry Ogunjobi's stats don't like him, but man, his tape tells a different story. Like his tape he is a roller coaster, but when he's on, and he makes some fun plays. Like, you put him next to Cam Hayward, who's a constant pro, like a really good football player. Seems like he's been in the league for 20 years now, just doing his thing. And Keeanu Benton is an ascending player who not enough people know this kid's name. Keeanu Benton is that dude on a D-line. Like, he is the nose tackle who can give you pass rush that everyone seems to think that they can find in the draft, but never does. Keeanu Benton is him. He is that guy. He is going to be a staple of this D-line for years to come. I love watching Keeanu Benton play football. And Alex Highsmith doesn't get enough credit for what he does across from TJ Watt. He is a freaking monster. This guy gets good pressure. He converts those pressures into sacks. He's good on true pass sets. Like, there's just a lot to like with what he does on the football field. And this D-line runs 6-7 guys deep. Like, there's on a heavy rotation. At linebacker, they went and got Patrick Queen. A nice addition, I guess. I don't know how to feel about that, if I'm being honest, because I just don't know what he is away from Michael Pierce and Roquan Smith. His numbers were good last year. I trust that the Steelers are just going to figure it out with the linebacker that they signed because, again, it's the Steelers and it's just kind of what they do. I liked Cole Holcomb a lot last year. I thought he made some really nice plays on the field.
Cole Holcomb was very solid for him last year.
Yeah, and then in the secondary, big bounce back year for Minkah Fitzpatrick this season. I think he missed like half the snaps last season with injuries and played through some injuries. He still made plays and did some good stuff, but I think he's due to have a big bounce back year. And Joey Porter Jr. started to look like a true shutdown corner towards the second half of last year. Like, I think he's going to be a real dude, and Dante Jackson across from him is no slouch. They were missing the nickel until this week, though. They signed Cameron Sutton, who last year sucked. But last year, he went to Detroit and played almost exclusively outside. Comes back to Pittsburgh now. Probably going to be a nickel-only guy. I think he can probably extend his career that way because he clearly couldn't play outside in Detroit last year. Or maybe it was just a scheme thing. Who knows? But behind them, they got some youth with Darius Rush and Corey Trice Jr., both second-year guys. Getting Darius Rush somehow, like, he got cut from the Colts last year as a rookie, like fifth-round pick, which is really weird, and he was a high upside guy. I still can't really explain that one. But I think there's some upside behind the starting three, but I think you're fine with the starting three that you've got here as well. So now I think we're okay to get into some of the futures here. And part of the reason why I want to go through each position is so I can cut this up and put all 22 tape in for you guys, and you don't have to watch a 2-hour video to get to your Steelers.
Absolutely. So looking at this, 8.5 wins. Over plus 126, under minus 154. Playoffs, yes, at plus 176. No, at minus 225. Win the division, it's plus 650. AFC champ at plus 2,500. Win Super Bowl at plus 5,000. This might be my first sprinkle on a Super Bowl. You look at this team. We just talked about the defense. We talked about how good George Pickens is. How electric Justin Fields can be. How good Jalen Warren was last year. How good Najee Harris can be. At 50-1?
I don't know that I'd say how good Najee Harris can be. Najee Harris can break tackles.
Solid.
An extra
solid.
2 yards. Yeah, solid.
But when your defense, if your defense is playing lights out, a Najee Harris 3 yards a carry might be exactly what you need.
If there's a running back I love in this room, it's Jalen Warren. Because Jalen Warren is freaking electric. Like, he needs all the touches.
Yeah, but at 50-1, even if you want to say Russell Wilson, I mean, we're talking about a guy who's been to 2 Super Bowls, probably one of the weaker points on both of those Super Bowl teams at the time. Great defense, great running back, good coach. I mean, how important would you say Russell Wilson was to those Seahawks runs? As far as
pretty important. He did his mobility was a big part of what made that all work. And I think
but he wasn't the driving factor is kind of what I'm getting at. Great team around him. And that's kind of what we're sitting at here. And then you look at the flip side, if it's Justin Fields, just how electric this guy can be. Say what you want about Justin Fields, about his decision making, about him getting zero focused in on wide receivers. That Bears team was ridiculously just bad. Poor roster management that they were able to build up as soon as he left. I mean, the new GM came in and kind of cleaned house, and then Justin Fields was just sitting there with nothing. And then they move on from Justin Fields, and they're able to rebuild the team. Like, I love what the Bears are doing, but they did not support Justin Fields at all. this will be far and away the best overall team he's had. I mean, I think his weapons last year, you could argue they might have been a little bit better, specifically from a weapons standpoint, nowhere else. And that would, you could maybe make that argument. But I mean, he's just electric when he touches the football. And you're telling me going against this defense, if they go 9-8 and squeak into the playoffs, you're telling me a 2-seeded Bengals team versus the 7th-seeded Pittsburgh Steelers going to Cincinnati, and you're lining up against Justin Fields in this defense, that he can't break a couple of 80-yard runs and then look up in the third quarter and it's 28-14 Steelers? I don't know. It's just fun. And at 50-1, I might sprinkle that Super Bowl.
Yeah, you're a lot higher in Justin Fields than I am.
I'm just talking value here.
Oh, I think value. Like, if I wanted to go pie in the sky value, I'd do AFC champs.
Yeah.
I just don't think Justin
25-1?
Fields can win a Super Bowl. I don't think he's a good enough passer. I just don't. I look at every chance he's had to come from behind last season, and it all fell apart because he didn't see the field very clearly.
In my hypothetical
runner, he's got all the arm talent in the world. That's where I hesitate with him. I just don't think he sees the field well. And when defenses start putting you in boxes and saying, hey, if you want to beat us, you got to do it this way, I don't think he can win.
So in my hypothetical, it's him busting out like 2 very long runs, the defense playing lights out, and they win like an 18-12 game.
Yeah. Just like last year against Detroit when they were winning for all but the final 3 minutes after Fields fumbled and gave Detroit the lead. Yeah. Quick note here from John Edberg. Good note that I missed. Peyton Wilson was drafted to address the Holcomb injury. I missed that Holcomb had nerve damage, and it's a bigger deal than Chubb's recovery. So Peyton Wilson might be starting for them at linebacker. Something I missed. Thank you for that note.
Injury concerns.
If I'm taking anything here, it's over 8.5. It's playoffs. Like, those are the ones that I feel good about.
Yes.
High in the sky, I could see a win the division. I don't think I go as far as AFC champs just because we talk about.
I don't think 6-1 is great. I don't think 6-1 is great value for division when you look at this division.
It's not great, but I mean, I'm saying I'd do that ahead of either of the others because I don't know if either of these quarterbacks. I believe in winning a football game in the playoffs. That's where I end up.
My only thing. My thing is at 50-1, when you look at this defense, if you let a 9-8 Steelers team into the playoffs, crazier things have happened. And at 50-1, that was my argument for it.
Like last year.
But realistically speaking, but they didn't have either one of these quarterbacks last year.
No, both these guys are better than Kenny Pickett. Like that's just a fact.
We've just been kind of just overlooking the fact that Russell Wilson kind of had a pretty good tail end of the season last year, and then they had that weird, like, take a pay cut or get benched, and he was like, I'll get benched, like, you paid me. Like, I don't blame him for a second.
His stats were very weird. It was very, like, manufactured.
But he played well.
He performed.
I thought he played well.
He put up good stats.
I didn't think he played well. I think he was playing better than he had.
He played, he played within the system that Sean Payton was putting out there for him and keeping him within, but it was still a limited system. It still limited him to certain things, and it was like he didn't have the full playbook at his disposal. I didn't feel like, because it was like he wasn't trusted.
But I mean, you also look at this offense, and you just talked about how good Jaylen Warren can be. I mean, they have 2 running backs that can carry the rock. They have a really good tight end in Freiermuth, who I like a lot in pass catching, and they have a defense that's absolutely nasty. Yeah, and it reminds me a lot of the Seahawks teams that he had a lot of success with. Like when he went to the Broncos, they traded for him to be a top 5 quarterback. And I don't think that was ever what Russell Wilson was. I think on a team like this, we can absolutely see Russ succeed at a high level.
Yeah,
I still think
I think it's possible. What gets really interesting is that Arthur Smith's offense want to attack the intermediate, deep, middle portions of the field, and neither of these quarterbacks have shown an ability to throw to the intermediate, deep, middle portion between the hashes, 10 to 30 yards downfield. Neither of these quarterbacks have shown much willingness to do that. So it's like,
well, Matt Ryan's a free agent.
Yeah, maybe they'll trade for Ryan Tannehill. Have 3 quarterbacks. Tannehill can run Arthur Smith's system. I'm sure
Arthur Smith trade for Tannehill. Isn't he a free agent still?
Oh yeah, you're probably right. He probably is a free agent. But either way, I think Arthur Smith is going to do some Frankenstein stuff with this offense. It's
We'll
going
give
to
him
be
that.
fun, interesting, possibly disastrous at times. Like it's going to be a wild ride, I think. So let's get to the Steelers' schedule and power through this before we get to the Brownies.
All right, week 1 versus the Falcons. You have the Falcons here. I think this is going to be a good Kirk Cousins game. I like the Falcons as well.
Yeah, I just think that team is going to come out guns ablaze, and like also their new head coach. He was the Rams DC last year, Raheem Morris. I think Raheem Morris has a close relationship with Mike Tomlin, so I think that's going to be a fun aspect to that game.
Oh yeah, and then Steelers Broncos week 2. You have the Broncos in that game. I mean, that might have to just be a personal bet between the two of us, because if Bo Nix beats this Steelers team week 2 versus that defensive line, good for him. But give me the Steelers.
I don't know why did I pick the Broncos here? I think it was just I didn't see Russell Wilson going into Denver and winning. But like my gut right now is saying Steelers, but I'm sticking with what I said.
Yeah, sticking with what you said. Then we have the Chargers going to Pittsburgh week 3. I have the Chargers in this game. You have the Steelers. I think this Chargers team's gonna be very hard nosed under Harbaugh. I think they're gonna have some success. So we're going that game.
I remember why I had the Broncos, because I think this is the first moment where we see real tension between Arthur Smith and Russell Wilson that eventually leads to Justin Fields starting.
Yep, we'll get to that. So Steelers Colts week 4. Anthony Richardson still coming into his own. I like the Steelers in this game. I think it's gonna be a close game. I think Russell Wilson, like you said, I think that's when we're really gonna start seeing the cracks form. And I think they're gonna go into this Dallas-Pittsburgh game. They're going to be 2-2 with very close win the week before, probably one that they shouldn't have got. I think maybe the defense shows up late in the game. They're going to go Sunday Night Football versus the Cowboys week 5. They're going to be down double digits at halftime, bring in Justin Fields, and Justin Fields is absolutely going to torch the Cowboys, and then all of Pittsburgh's going to be on fire until Justin Fields has a Justin Fields
Bunch
game.
of burning yinzers.
Yeah, but and then Steelers Raiders the following week. You have the Raiders in that game. I'll take the Steelers there.
So
Steelers.
I will say I think it's a similar timeline for Fields starting, but I think that if it's in that Cowboys game, I think it's a letdown the next week against the Raiders.
Yeah, I could see that too, and I didn't really put that. I think the letdown is going to be a big time letdown with Aaron Rodgers going into Pittsburgh Sunday Night Football. I think you have a game and a half of Justin Fields starting, and Aaron Rodgers goes up there and hangs 40 on you. They get an early lead against that Pittsburgh defense.
That's going to happen to Tomlin against Rodgers?
So I think Rodgers is going to get it. I think Rodgers is going to get an early lead there.
The one quarterback to ever beat Mike Tomlin in the Super Bowl.
I mean, he's only been twice, but yeah, I mean, I think Rodgers gets an early lead. They panic a little bit. Fields maybe has a couple of fumbles, a couple of bad interceptions, and the game gets away from him.
I was just joking.
Okay. And then we have Monday Night Football against the Giants. I think the Steelers take that one. And I think it's closer than comfort. And then Steelers Commanders, I already said I don't think the Commanders win a game against this AFC North, so I'll take the Steelers here. Then we have the first Ravens game we just talked about at Pittsburgh. I think the Ravens win that one. Following week, you have the Steelers in that game, as we just talked about. Steelers Browns
on a 4-game win streak.
Steelers Browns the following week at Cleveland. Thursday Night Football, short week, back-to-back division games. I think that's tough. I'll give me the Browns in that game. Going to Cincinnati after 2 tough weeks, still setting the division, 3 straight weeks in the AFC North. I think you got to win one of them. I'll take the Steelers in that game. Q has the Bengals there.
Yeah, I got the Bengals.
Browns Steelers. God, I didn't realize they played 5 division games in a row. It's brutal. Then I think they win their second matchup versus the Browns. You have that as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm going 2 and 3 in that stretch.
And we got the battle for PA.
Battle for PA. Yeah, I think the Eagles are going to do well here. I think the Eagles are perform well against the AFC North. I'll take the Eagles here as well. Then I have Steelers to round out the end of the season versus the Ravens, Chiefs, and Bengals. While Q has Ravens winning, and the Steelers beating the Chiefs, and Steelers beating the Bengals.
And that puts the Steelers at 9-8 for me and 10-7 for you.
I think that's about right where they are.
Yeah, I do too. I think initially I had them at like 8, and then I just made a change last minute to put them at 9.
You play to win the game. Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.